Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builder Supply, and this video is to bring you a closer look at the Aire. This is their compression spring operator, sometimes called a shock or a lifting mechanism, but they call it a compression spring operator for their 3844 series roof hatch. And this video is to serve as visual evidence of the item, dimensional evidence of the item, and hopefully those two aspects will conspire to help you determine if this is accurately what you need. But here we go. So it will involve the upper tube and the lower tube. It's going to involve the business end of all of that, the spring. It's going to involve the bottom boot. And it's going to involve a nut, a washer, and a bolt for attaching the upper tube to the underside of the lid. And then you will get four what appear to be 1/4-20 self-drilling sheet metal screws, well, at least 1/4-inch sheet metal screws for attaching the boot to the sidewall. Okay. Now, there is a link below this video to a document called Specification Drawing, and that will give you an overview of the 3844. This is used specifically on the 3844. At this time, I don't have any data on the weight capacity of this spring, and they, rightfully so, in my opinion, would keep some of that information, I would think, a bit confidential. I don't know what these are rated for. It's difficult to know how many springs go on a different size unit because bill of materials aren't necessarily published. But what Aire is very good at doing is answering the question of, I have a 3844. I need the lifting mechanism for it. Can you help? Yeah, they're very good with that. Which comes into play of simply recording all the data that we can about the items to help you determine if this is the replacement for your item, and if it's not, reach out to us. Let's start with some dimensional properties. Overall height of the top tube appears to be about 9 inch, maybe just heavy on that. And let's pull out the caliper to get the outside diameter of the top tube. 1.511. 1.511 diameter of that top tube. I would say from the center line of the unit itself to the overall of the bracket for the lid, it looks like it's going to be about 2 5/8. And to the center line of the mounting post, let's straighten that out. About 2 13/16. Then to the center line of where that will mount appears to be about 2 7/16 to that hole. And this is all just material that's been welded together, made of steel, and then prime coated. ID of that hole is 0.427. 0.427. Moving on to the lower tube, overall length of that, about 9 1/4. It's going to have an outside dimension 1.385. 1.385. We'll have a welded in bottom cap with a hole in it for the bottom boot, and let's move to that next. Just a piece of angle that's been cut, drilled, and welded. Width about 2 1/8. Height about 2 inch. Projection about 2 inch. That pin is going to rest like that to keep it captive. Okay, so that's how that's going to look. Obviously your top tube. Now, question we get all the time is, what's the length of the item? Let's start with the spring itself. Probably about 18 inch, I would guess. Let's take a look. Now, it should be shorter than that. About 18 5/8. It's going to have an I meant to say a little longer than that. An outside diameter of about 1.145. 1.145, with a diameter of the coil itself 0.163. 0.163. So when we put all this together, it's going to be obviously that 18 3/4 or so. You know, you're certainly going to need to get all of that bolted together, and that's going to happen the first time. You'll need to get this in place, the roof hatch brought down to the point where you can run the bolt into it, and then, you know, hopefully you'll be able to, it'll be a two-person job. Someone's going to have to hold that down to get it all bolted into place, is just the bottom line. What you might do is secure the top lid, then bring that down onto the positioned bottom boot, and secure it that way. The hold open bracket is obviously going to limit the travel of the roof hatch so that the tubes don't escape from each other. You're going to get, oh, we've covered the bolts. So inevitably we get questions of, will it work on my roof hatch? Okay, whose roof hatch do you have? I have no idea. The thing's been up there 30 years. The answer is we don't know. And we don't know because there are too many facets, there are too many unknowns to determine that. What is the spring capacity? What's the weight of the lid? How many of these are necessary? What is the mounting point on the sidewall, and where's the mounting point on the sidewall? Okay, and where's the location of the top? All of this will conspire to bring together, hopefully, a successful installation. So the bottom line is, what I can deduce is that 2 of these springs are used on basically 3 foot by 3 foot or 30 by 36 inch roof hatch in a 3844. So we can determine that. We can also see from the specification drawing that in general, I find that those bottom boots are basically to the flush bottom of the sidewall. We can also determine that the door is open to about 80 degrees or so, and that's where your point of mounting is at the header. So we can derive some of the information necessary, but by no means are we saying it will work on your unknown application, because people contact and say, I need a roof hatch. I made a access panel or a roof hatch. I need some hardware. There's guesswork involved, and generally where people have trouble is they get the door to open to 90 or past, and that's when those tubes are going to leave each other. That happens all the time. So I think the key is to keep the, and I don't have all the facts, but if it was me, I would think the key is to keep that lid from going past about 80 degree in any instance. And if it does, you'll have to manually put those tubes back together, because they need to compress so that they don't have to overextend each other, meaning they don't have to go past each other, and do so in such a way that the lid will still close and latch. So all of the length of the spring, the strength or tension on the spring, the load the spring is intended to handle, and your mounting points all conspire for a proper installation, and many of those things are guesswork to us. So hopefully this video will serve as additional information to help you determine if this is an adequate replacement for your item, or however you might intend to use it. And there are other Aire products that we have in our site. And if there's any questions we can help to answer on the compression spring operator or any other Aire product, please feel free to reach out to us. And thank you.